Hello?
I see you took a gamble.
Yeah.
Listen, we can't afford to be doing that anymore. And if you fuck up one more time, you're gonna be in deep trouble. Not just money trouble. Do you understand?
Okay.
That went incredibly poorly. Well, it's a good thing I bought this Marvel Superheroes box. What could go wrong? Whenever I see people opening boosters online, it's generally collector boosters, which those are made solely for collectors of the game, people who are looking for those big chase pulls. However, I don't see as many people opening play boosters, which I believe may more accurately represent the average player experience. With that in mind, I'd like to see if I can make my money back on this play booster, and I'd also like to take special consideration into certain cards that are on the higher end and the lower end, and try and determine if they are going to hold their value, as hopefully this video is coming out near the release of Marvel Superheroes. Now you might notice things get a little faster here, and that's because I realized my slow ass was taking way too long to do everything, so I just decided to speed things up by 2 times, and you'll notice that maybe I'm just like a lethargic person, but man, it just takes me forever to do things. So I figured I'd go over the basics of the play booster just for the sake of it, because I've never done one of these before. Each play booster contains 30 booster packs. I bought my play booster for $124, which is right in between the market price and the lowest listing, so not bad, but if we divide that by 30, we'll reach $4.13 per pack. It'd be kind of ridiculous to try and calculate the value of each pack, and it also is kind of meaningless because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where the cards came from as long as the total value adds up to around $124. I'm just putting that out there because in Magic's history, there's very few packs that have been able to kind of hit that threshold of constantly, if buying one pack, being able to net you close to your original value. There are some occasional super value sets, like I think Edge of Eternities is one that has very high potential payouts for even play boosters. But the reason I was saying this originally was because the individual play boosters on TCG Player, the lowest listing is $6.57, with the market price for an individual pack being $7.48. So again, if you're planning on doing something like I am, just sitting down, ripping a bunch of packs, please buy in bulk, don't buy individual packs. You'll save a bit of money in the long run. And now that we've got all of that initial pricing out of the way, you'll notice that earlier I pulled a card called Visions of Love, which is one of the better cards in this set in my opinion. And if you're thinking to yourself, that text looks a little familiar, well, that's because it is. It's actually an exact copy, identical effect to Demand Answers, and of course they've printed offshoots of the card originally that were a little lower powered, a little less versatile, such as Thrill of Possibility from, I believe, Thrones of Eldraine was its original printing, or Tormenting Voices from Khans of Tarkir. And although those effects are quite literally identical between Demand Answers and Vision of Love, you might notice that while Vision of Love is going for, I believe, around 17 cents, I'll have the price on screen, Demand Answers at the moment is going for around 38 cents market. So if you're just looking for a cheaper copy or recursion of a really good card, then, I mean, there you go. It's literally the exact same effect. And you might have seen a couple seconds ago that I actually pulled a pretty flashy Captain America card that when I was looking over the text of the card, I was like, wait, this all seems quite familiar, and that's because this is the reprint that they've been talking about for, around a year now, I believe, of Captain America from the Secret Lair drop. Patience has once again proven itself to be a massive virtue, as if you decided to wait for, how long has it been, a year? Maybe a year and a couple months for this new Captain America First Avenger to drop, you can get him for $10.52. I think the market's around $10, and the original Secret Lair drop printing is around $40. Captain America's a tough one to gauge whether the price will go up or down, because I think it's solely tied to him as a character rather than the effect, because I don't see it as being that cool. Earlier, I also pulled a card I'm very excited for, which is Gleaming Bastion, which I think has a lot of potential. This land seems to be so beginner-friendly, because if you're playing a low-color deck, like, for example, 2, maybe 3, then you're going to be playing some basics, and I think in a weird way, this is actually going to cause the price to be skewed towards the lower end, because it's not going to be as playable in the stronger decks in Commander, at least. Now, this is only the allied land cycle, so there's still the enemy lands coming up, and I think my favorite part about these lands is they do have a pretty massive downside if you aren't playing basics, so I imagine that these lands are, weirdly enough, going to fall down in price. So if it were up to me, I would wait quite a while, not just like until the pre-release prices are down, but wait until Marvel is kind of out of the limelight, and I think the more casual players will be able to pick some of these lands up for a great price, and I think they're going to be staples in lower bracket decks for Commander. And now I'd like to talk about one of the many cards that is going to change Pauper, or at least everyone's saying it's going to change Pauper, Hawkeye's Bow. People have been very excited about this card just due to the fact that it is a 2-card combo with the Seeker of Skybreak card, and personally I think a lot of the hype is overstated. I think we're already seeing that Hawkeye's Bow, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a common, and there's gonna be plenty in circulation, so if you're looking for one of these, I mean, don't pay more than bulk price for it. And right now actually seems like a decent time to buy, considering that you can get one for, I believe, 18 cents. And of course, for the Commander players out there, I recommend pairing this with a creature that's able to tap itself without attacking, or pair it with some value generator like Malcolm, where you can get a massive payout, or Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin is another good choice. Now, while I think a lot of the cards I've talked about up till now have been kind of generically good, I'd like to talk about a personal favorite of mine from this set, Herbie Scout Unit. This is one I can actually almost guarantee is not going to increase in value, and while you can pick up one for its market is 12 cents, however, they are listed on TCG Player at a lot lower. I just love these kinds of effects. One of my favorite commanders is Gretchen Titchwillow from Adventures of the Forgotten Realms, and this effect almost mimics it to a T. And in a way, it almost feels like a colorless Explorer, except obviously it's 4 mana, but I don't know, it's very me-coded. And coming right up, we have the most hyped, at least I think, legend in the set, which was Thanos the Mad Titan. And I think Thanos is really interesting because even if you just look at him as a Mardu for a 4/4 Death Touch lifelink, that is already an incredible value you're getting. But then in addition, you also see that he has his power-up board wipe, which is 6 mana, one of each color, and a colorless, and then it gives him a, like, pseudo board wipe, basically, which, notably, doesn't target him. So I see him as a very big, like, limited bomb, and the power-up just being an additional effect. I don't think he'll be played much in Commander outside of, like, a big villain tribal, because, you know, in all honesty, Commander players just need something flashier. And while this was one of my bigger pulls in the box, being around $9 for the lowest you can get it for, and the market price being $9.43, currently $10.92. Either way, I would wait on this guy, because usually it's the super promo printing arts that are the ones that maintain their value if it's just people really like that character. And while Thanos is pretty iconic, this card doesn't have that Commander stability that people are looking for. So I'd wait. And you know what the worst part about this is? I have no attachment to this card, but I just thought it was so cool in terms of the flavor, which I kind of hate that I feel that way, but if you're gonna do UB, at least make it, like, on theme, and Miss Marvel Kamala Khan, I think, does that incredibly well. Now, I'm in general not a big fan of no max hand size cards, because I think people get really bogged down in that, and just trying to make their hand as big as possible, and don't actually include a way to win, and this is, of course, for Commander. However, it looks like Miss Marvel kind of tackled this problem in an interesting way, with having a way to not only draw cards built into her, but she also is able to buff her base power based on her hand size, and with a 4 toughness, I think that's pretty good. This isn't as good as Thanos in terms of just looking at her keywords and her mana cost. Like a 3 mana 1/4 with Vigilance and Reach, it'd be pretty good, but it wouldn't be like game breaking or anything, and I don't think it would receive play. But man, that effect, that really just boosts her up, and I think it interests me in a max hand size deck, which I've never even considered, so, mission accomplished on that card, and considering that the art kind of accentuates that she can make her hands big, I think that's hilarious and very on theme. Now, I pulled a Nick Fury earlier in the video, and I just had to touch on this, but one of the things I don't like that Magic is doing right now is that I'm not a fan of the word slop, but this is what I would consider a sloppy design. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the actual art looks pretty incredible, but just the idea of sticking Wooburg in the mana cost as an activated ability, and then having this low-costed or low mana costed legendary creature, basically solely made for Commander, it just feels lazy, and it feels like if they weren't designing for Commander still, we wouldn't have to deal with stuff like this, and they just make it a 5 power ability. However, if you still want to build him, which is, it's completely fine. If you like him, feel free to build him. I would not be worried about the price going up. I just think he's very uninteresting in terms of what he does, and doesn't bring enough unique stuff to the table. I do think the double face, automatically transforming it, is pretty cool in terms of Commander. I see him probably hovering around $2 at most. Now, in terms of building for Commander, I do actually kind of enjoy it sometimes, and Hex Magic feels like a card that is trying to capture that feeling. I think in Commander, Red's greatest weakness is still its lack of card draw and kind of how it sputters out. And while this card doesn't help you not sputter out, it will buy you a turn, where if you're able to maintain a certain amount of cards in hand, then this will give you access to all of those cards for your whole turn, and then you just have a refilled hand for whenever you next play. I know I lack a little bit of that verbal elegance, but what I'm trying to get at is this card, this effect, feels like it isn't just bound to Marvel like a lot of the Marvel cards end up feeling. This one feels like it could be applied to any red deck. Now here I'm going to go through my favorite cards from the box that we just opened, and with the power of editing and post, I'm going to show you what we made right here. I think it was around $137. So I spent $124, we made $137. Overall, this is almost entirely just due to hype. Also, if these all don't sell the first day, yeesh. Thank you all for watching. It means the world to me that I can upload these videos for you guys and you enjoy watching them. Here's a little short video of my cat Frisky. He's doing his favorite rolling and a little bit of air biscuits, but yes, he's very nice.